Hello, Abhinya, co-host of the Two Place podcast. Before we start, I wanted to preface this episode with one thing. This was meant to be a single episode, but given the time constraints and just how into the conversations we got, we decided to split the episode into two separate parts. About halfway through while filming. So what you're going to see is us discussing essentially like the entire era in a nutshell, some of the biggest films that came out, and who amongst the actors and actresses that dominated the scene, who amongst them had possibly the best run during this time. In the second part of the episode, we'll be diving deeper into the genres, into the production houses, into the music, and the lasting legacy of this particularly weird time in Bollywood. And one final thing, we've had a shit ton of technical issues on this episode. My camera didn't work, Rohit's audio isn't great. So I sincerely apologize for how it looks like on video, specifically on video. Rest assured, the next episode will be back up again. This is the Two Please podcast, where we discuss all things pop culture and entertainment. Let's start the show.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
So, Bollywood once again is going through a bit of a crisis, and this thing seems to be happening every couple of years given, its past track record. But there hasn't been a more significant era of change than what happened in the early 2000s because so many different kind of genres and so many different actors had such varying degrees of success and failure and ultimately resulted in a sort of weird mishmash at the box office and has become this really sort of era that we look back on fondly over the last couple of years. So, on this week's episode, we're diving back into the crazy and strange world of the early 2000s of Bollywood, discussing some of the biggest films, some of the famous runs by the actors, as well as its lasting legacy that has kind of percolated into the current mainstream version of Bollywood that we know today. We were going back and forth on as to what to discuss for this week's episode, and it was, I we decided, Rohit said, like, let's tackle something in the Bollywood space, and I thought, hey, what better era it is than to discuss the early 2000s where we were both children and it was just a very weird time for Hindi cinema specifically. So there's plenty to unpack here. I thought it would be a good episode, and then now that we've structured this thing together, and I don't know, it should be fun, I guess.
I mean, don't sound so doubtful. It will be fun because
Okay, thank
I
you.
mean the kind of movies that we've set up to discuss are an interesting bag. Just a quick note to add on to what you said, and I think to us that era is very close, obviously, because that's when we came of age, and
Mhm.
I guess that's when we seriously started flirting with um, being cinephiles. Again, I don't like the term, but what I'm trying to say is we were getting into taking cinema a little seriously. Unfortunately, which is not to say there weren't good movies in this period, but unfortunately, we came of age at a time where I think Bollywood was in the midst of another one of its many reinventions and rediscoveries, right? And
Mhm.
we were witness to that beta testing process, if I were to put it that way. Just to presage the kind of movies we're going to talk about, right? Obviously, we want to um, cover as many genres as possible, but there's going to be comedies. There's going to be we're going to talk about how trends were changing around the turn of the millennium and how Bollywood adopted to it. We're going to talk about what that meant for urban cinema. We're going to talk about what tentpole cinema looked like, right? Family tragedies, probably on their tail end. So we're going to dive deeper into all of these phenomena and try and use a couple of movies as examples for each of these phenomena to try and land the point. Right? That's broadly how we're going to structure the episode, and also talk about what stars made it big, what stars missed out on opportunities, stuff like that, right? So,
Mhm.
how do you want to start this? Do you want to look at what actors made it big? You want to talk about movies? How do you want to do this?
I think let's kind of talk about where, like, we'll talk about, give it an overview, and then we'll dive. Like, I think we'll funnel down into like actors, actresses, then specific production houses, and so on and so forth. I think the correct way to do this would be like, okay, straight off the bat, we've said this a bunch of times. Very weird time. like supremely weird time, because you had the 90s where sentiments were shifting, but they weren't exactly there just yet. And then you had like the 2000s where things were changing. It was the slightly more modernized Indian was being born. Cinema habits themselves were changing. The single screens were dying, and I think the 2000s, at least this era, is testament to the death of the single screen film, which was very different compared to what multiplex audiences are right now. I think the multiplex audiences are kind of harkening back to what the single screen eras were like. But back then it was like, oh,
Strangely, yeah.
you'd probably, yeah, you'd go to a multiplex to watch a certain kind of film, as opposed to
Yeah.
watching a movie in a single screen. I think if you just look at some of the biggest films of this era, like take for example, you take Gadar, you take K3G, you take Dil Chahta Hai, Lagan, Raz, Bhoot, Dhoom, Hum Tum, Black, and Bunty or Bubbly. It's like a mixed bag. Some of the biggest hits of that era, and it's like a mixed bag, or a khichdi, as we like to say, in terms of what Bollywood was chucking out at that time. And you may argue about some of the long lasting legacy of this film, or or even if it was overrated or underrated at the time. But these were films that were successful, and they all found audiences, which is really, really strange, given that I feel like half of these movies released today, they're all just tank.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you say that, but also they released the sequel to Gadar, what, last year or a year and a
Hmm.
half ago, and that shit still sells. So I don't disagree, but also I'm like, I'm not sure people today are smarter or better informed than they were 20 years ago.
No, I'm not agreeing that. I'm not saying that people are smarter or stupid. I feel like people took a lot more chances back in the early 2000s than they did right now. I think, as a
For
matter of
sure,
fact,
for sure.
uh,
Yeah.
I feel like as a society we have gotten dumber.
For sure, yeah. And to add on to not so much to add on to your point, but just putting this out there while we've listed these big money making films, we will also try and spend a couple of minutes on the weirder stuff that also came out because we are saying it's a weird time, right? Movies that didn't do so well, but are cult favorites for ironical reasons. But we'll get to that. I know you've listed a bunch of movies. Do you want to talk about specific? Do you want to narrow down on specific films? I know there are films that typify each genre for you.
Okay, let's start with the big box office. At the early 2000s, the big box office hits were Gadar and Lagan and K3G, and these were movies that I think very much. I mean, Lagan not so much, but definitely Gadar carried a lot of that mass experience into the new millennium. And Lagan came as a surprise to all of us because it was very different. It was a nationalist film that wasn't jingoistic, and it didn't blame communities for the plight of a certain sect of people. It was India versus the world, right? India versus the British Empire, or rather the village, a small village versus the British Empire. So that unity and that sort of messaging, and to be fair, a pretty kick-ass cricket match, made for intense viewing. I don't know, I watched this movie in the theater. We've addressed this in like the Aamir Khan episode, Aamir Through the Ages, and it was amazing. Like the audiences were losing their mind, and I watched it in a single screen theater back in the day. DCH, very different experience, right? It's Aamir Khan, who's almost the same year, where he has like Lagan, and then he has the modernized Indian, or this little goatee sporting dude who is going through the trials and tribulations of urban life while trying to figure out who he is alongside two of his friends. It was very relatable to a big chunk of, let's say, like college grads who are entering the workforce and trying to figure out their own place in society as well. So I found that to be quite, it again had a very interesting experience. And then K3G is like standard family entertainer. It's always about loving your family. It is essentially the Avengers Infinity War or Endgame of
Okay.
Bollywood, because like you're stacking the, what do you call this film, with all the big wigs. You've got Hrithik Roshan, you've got Shah Rukh Khan, you've got, who's like Hrithik Roshan, up and coming superstar, Shah Rukh Khan, the biggest superstar, Kajol, and one of the biggest superstars at the time, Kareena Kapoor, once again up and coming, Jaya Bachchan and Hrithik Roshan. You are pairing, sorry, Jaya Bachchan, Hrithik Roshan, I'm saying, Jaya Bachchan and Amitabh Bachchan. You are bringing like a real life power couple onto the screen. It was one of those things where, okay, the stars are going to sell this film, and all you got to do it is make it palatable. And it's a little more than palatable. I think it's a pretty standard family entertainer.
Yeah,
But
that's as well as I'd put it.
hmm.
But I agree. Like, I think we picked a good four movies to look at to showcase the range, right? Or at least, you know, make a point on how varied or how different the 2000s could be. I agree with you. I think Gadar is a movie from a decade earlier. Works much better as a 90s film. Broad brush, black and white, India, Pakistan, water pump being pulled, India, Hindustan Zindabad rahega. It's an ass. The movie is ass. The dialogues are ass. It's meant for the lowest common denominator. I mean, you have Amrish Puri as a Pakistani. I'm like, bro, how much more villain do you want, right? And today, the other thing that has really worked in India is IPL because they put cinema in cricket. IPL is basically cinema in cricket, right? So it's a two-way street. Of course, Lagan had to work. I mean, and if I'm sounding cynical, that does not mean I'm not acknowledging the fact that standalone is a great movie, right? The trope of Indians fighting back against British is not new, but the setting and the treatment and all of that, and like you said, it's a unifying message. It's not a divisive message, right? At least in the context of Indians, is what makes it really work. Dil Chahta Hai, like we mentioned this earlier, probably the first big multiplex film, right? It is meant for, and it is not meant for diaspora. It is meant for Indians who are in the metros, right?
Yeah.
Like the target audience is very specific here. You could see that again. I'm lapsing into marketing speak because that's what we do for a living, but that was the target audience, and they could see that target market increasing, right? Hey, this is a sizable market in and of itself, so we need to start addressing it. In many ways, Dil Chahta Hai, while it's a great script and all that, it also feels like a very conscious corporate decision. Like, let's make this movie so it makes money. Which, I mean, nothing against it. I'm just, it's an observation. K3G is very much a diaspora movie, right? It is
Hmm.
meant for people outside of India who are longing for what, who are missing living in India, right? It hits all those notes. It tugs at your strings in that way. Is it a good movie? If you ask me, no, right? I mean, objectively on the spectrum of what cinema can be across the world, is it a good movie? No, but it works. That's
it's
how I.
it's like a whole. I mean, we'll address this in the genre section because I think like this genre just died. It was such a
Yeah,
big aspect
it's
of like
good.
the early 2000s. It just died, and it hasn't come back since what, the 2010s.
Excellent.
I haven't seen a film that focuses on the NRI life, but okay, we'll get to it in the genre section.
Yeah,
But
we have enough
uh,
toxic family in our lives as it is. We don't need our
we don't
hospitals.
need a. But yeah, man. So this was in a nutshell what the what the rather some of the biggest films of the era. Like I don't think would be. There is one other film I want to talk about, but I think we'll talk about in the actor section. Now let's move into the actors, like who was having the biggest like success or hit rate at this point. And I was
Yeah,
looking at the filmography, and it's undoubtedly Shah Rukh. Like Shah Rukh is having a stellar. He's from '97, I'd say, up to about 2005, and then 5 to 7 he has another lull. He's more or less top of the game. I think Ashoka is the one big bomb that is in this current mess. But
it's a good
besides
movie.
that,
It's unfair. Anyways, that's besides.
hmm, it felt like it feels out of place. I really like Santosh Shivan. I think
It
he
does
had
feel
this
out of
little.
place. I'll give you that.
Hmm. Santosh Shivan's, I think he had a movie called Little Terrorist, which was like a big festival darling
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
a couple of years prior, and then he gets like picked up to do this, and it bombs. It bombs spectacularly, and I don't think Shah Rukh has gone back to do epics ever since.
yeah.
And but yeah, so I just generally think Shah Rukh had a pretty insane run right this time because he's got Devdas, he's got Kalona Ho, he's got Mohabbat, which isn't a great film, but was a massive box office success.
Yeah.
Then he's got Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum that we already spoke about. He has Swades, which many would argue is his best performance. So
Yes.
this is, in the middle, he has like these big culture, like I mean not culture, but like these are films, cult films like One Two Ka Four, which didn't really do well, but people remember fondly. He's in Satya for a hot minute. It's like one of the big cameos in Satya. This was, I think, him taking the jump from Indian superstar to global superstar. I think this era kind of cements. He's probably the biggest winner of that NRI genre we spoke of, because his influence, he starts doing world tours. I think they call it Temptation Tours. He goes to a lot of places in the
Yeah.
US, and it becomes, oh, Shah Rukh, the king, the emperor type of thing. He's having a time of his life. And in the middle, there are some like silly ass films. I think there's Hum Tumhare Hai Sanam, which is like this MF Hussain directed film starring him, Madhuri Dixit, and Salman Khan, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's one of those like bakwas movies which I think was made a few years earlier, and it was stuck in like release hell.
Is that the
The
one?
Madhuri Dixit MF Hussain star you're talking about is Gajagamini.
Yes, correct. That's the one. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Hmm.
I mean, I know that that's the odd, and I'm sure this is a movie that was shot many years earlier. It just got released in the
Hmm.
early 2000s. For the most part, I agree with what you're saying in terms of how SRK killed it in the early 2000s. Personally, I don't like his performance in Devdas. It's way over the top. I agree
Oh,
with
dude,
you that
the last 20
yeah,
minutes is
it's
just
just
a
a
nightmare.
horrible. Um, Suarez is probably his best performance. Close, I would say, but it's a toss-up between that and Chak De India for me. Again, Suarez didn't really do a lot of business, if I recall correctly, but culturally very significant and also very important to diaspora audience in a very different way. It's not so much about them missing India, it's just like come back, right? Like do your part for making this a better country and stuff. So think of it this way. Ashutosh Gwarekar also had a great run there for those
Hmm.
4 years, right? Between Lagaan and Swades, like wow, back to back killer movies, right?
I think up to
Uh,
2009, but I think that till Jodha Akbar also is possibly, you can argue, but I mean,
yeah,
okay, if you want, we can put it in this bracket.
that's a
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
a whole other conversation. The other actor who enjoyed a really good period here was Aamir Khan, right? And I think this is where Aamir also sort of found, I wouldn't call it his niche, but his track, right? Or his lane. Which is not to say Amir wasn't a big name in the 90s, but
Hmm.
he was up for, or he was game for anything, right? He's done Andaz Apna Apna in 94. He's done Sarfarosh in 97, if I'm getting my years right.
90.
Eh, 98. But he was
Hmm.
sort of up for anything. But I think this is early 2000s is where he started to, one, focus on quality over quantity. So, the model that he follows to this day, right? He does one movie every couple of years, maybe, if that. I mean, even less so now. And he started becoming, you could see the beginnings of his move to being that intellectual, urbane actor, right? Where he had opinions on everything. And, he would have in-depth conversations with interviewers. I mean, today we look at it and it's become a meme. It's become a point of
Hmm.
annoyance about him. But at that point of time, I jumping ahead a couple of years outside of the scope of our discussion when Satyamev Jayate TV show and all the TV show had come. Looking back, I'm like, what the fuck was he thinking?
I guess he's
Tackling
just riding the wave.
socialism.
Yeah, he just like
Yeah.
rode the wave, and he's like, okay. He ended up at Tari Zameen Par, and he thought, okay, I've tackled a big social issue, at least amongst children with dyslexia. And the logical next step he thought would be like to further move, become this figure where he highlights a lot of the plight of the slightly underprivileged. And it worked, I think, for a bit, but then people were like, okay, this is getting a little performative, and it died a very quick death.
Which makes me sad because if you ask me, again, this is my opinion, of the three Khans, not only is he the best actor, but he also this is debatable. He also has the best choice of scripts, especially from I'm talking about what is good cinema. Again, at the risk of sounding like a pretentious asshole. What I mean is, Shah Rukh's movies make more money. They have broader appeal. I feel whatever scripts Amit chose, they will last the test of time, critically speaking, longer, right? So he knows how to pick a good script, or at least he used to. The better actor, I used to like his whole vibe. I used to root for him. He was like the thinking man's actor. Again, at the risk of sounding like a pretentious asshole, but of the three, right? it it sort of saddens me to see that not only has his output decreased, it's his hit rate has now sort of taken a beating. If I'm not mistaken, Dangal was the last big movie he's done which really worked, right? The lesser said about Lal Singh Chaddha, the better. But he's just that instinct of picking the right films seems to have deserted him a little bit, and I hope he finds his mojo again because when he does, he puts out great stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, but I think that you want to get to the third Khan because I have his filmography open up here, and oh my god, it is something. Till 2004,
yeah,
the
yeah.
films I'm looking at, I'm just like, wow.
I mean, yeah. Speaking of Salman,
Hmm.
I think I've made it clear sufficient times over episodes of this podcast. I don't like him as a human being. I don't like him as
Hmm.
an actor. He's a trash actor, trash human being. His failure gives me great joy. So I love the fact that he didn't know what the fuck he was doing in this era. Long may it continue. Uh, I think this was when he was really embroiled with Chota Shakil and all of these
Yeah,
underworld
all of.
elements. There were
Hmm.
accusations of the underworld producing some of these films, right? I think Chori Chori Chupke Chupke or one of
Yeah,
those Rani
sorry, sorry,
Mukerji,
Chupke
Preity
Chupke.
Zinta's
It's
star films.
supposed to
Yeah,
be, yeah, it's supposed to be the Abu Salem sponsored film.
Abu
Yeah.
Salim, sorry, not Chota
Hmm.
Shakil. Yeah, very weird choices. These stupid melodramatic love triangles, romantic dramas. What he had going for him was his movies had good music, right? We still
Hmm.
recall songs from his films. But yeah, other than that, he was in the wilderness, haha, pun intended. Uh, and thankfully, not much came of it. Not much of it is memorable today. So yeah,
I'm looking at it. So from 2000 he had दुल्हन हम ले जाएंगे. Wow. चल मेरे
sure.
भाई हर हर दिल जो प्यार करेगा, which is again like you said, one of the better albums. ढाई
Yeah.
अक्षर प्रेम के, which is wow. Oh,
He
he's a
was in
truck
that
driver in this. Yeah, apparently he's in that. He's a truck driver.
because it's
Then
a Ayakshar Prem Ke had Abhishek Bachchan and
Aishwarya Rai.
Aishwarya Rai.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
Salman played a truck driver in this. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh wow, it's like
Yeah, you
some.
didn't want to put him behind the wheel of anything with Abhishek and Aishwarya in the
Yes.
film, bro. Like, what the fuck?
I think he kind of forced himself into this. Then there's Kahi Pyar Na Ho Jaye, which again I really like the album. Movie,
Yeah,
meh. Hmm. Chori Chori Chupke Chupke, kind of barring it, it's like slightly dark production. It set up two actresses to become the forefront or rather the faces of the industry for the next couple of years, in
yeah,
Rani, and like I would argue this is a Rani and Preity movie more than it is a Salman movie because they're both delivering great performances in a strange movie about surrogacy. Like Preeti Zinta, dude, 2000, she did Kya Kehna, and they're like, oh, this woman is happy being pregnant on screen. Chori Chori Chukke Chukke, Kya Kehna, and Salam Namaste follow in quick succession. But we'll get to her later.
yeah,
Then in 2002, he has Tumko Na Bhool Payenge. Wow. Hum Tumhare Sanam, which we spoke about. Ye Hai Jalwa. I don't
yeah.
even know what this movie is. Then he has this Dev
No
Anand
idea.
directed film called Love at Times Square, which I remember.
Oh
Then
yes, I remember.
some, but okay, I think 2003 is kind of where it swings. It starts to swing because yes, Tere Naam and Bagban here. Like I forget, like this is 2003. He starts to capture, uh, like he has cultural relevance once again because of that haircut. That haircut starts to really
Ugh.
bring him back, and then the film itself is just is depressing as shit, right?
I mean, the film is the proto Arjun Reddy, no?
Proto, I mean, it's far. I don't think Arjun Reddy faces the consequences that the Radhe character faces in the film, right? Like Radhe just goes through
That's
like the
true.
second
That's
half.
true. I'm
Yeah.
saying the first half of Tere Naam, the character is
Hmm.
basically what Arjun Reddy is.
Hmm.
Thankfully, there are consequences to his actions.
Yeah.
So
And then there's Bagban, a movie which forever ruined
he
the
plays a
lives of every
he plays a
child.
cuck in that movie, dude. Sorry.
Wow. Okay. I was leaning to the
Yes.
whole idea that it just ruined the like you went and watched this movie with your parents and you came out and they blamed you for things that haven't even happened yet. And like you're
Yeah.
12 years old and your parents are like, yeah, you want to do this to us. It's like what have we done?
And that scene, bro, where something Amitabh and Hema Malini, we should do a separate episode just
Hmm?
excoriating Bhagwan someday. Fuck all movie. But there's a scene where Amitabh and Hema Malini are like, yeah, we're going to leave. We have to go back to our house. And Salman is like, but पिताजी. And like it's so weird to see him behave. Like, "तो पिताजी ये तो आप ही का घर है. आप चले जाएंगे तो भगवान चला." Something he says like God is leaving the house, and then there's tears in his eyes. Like, hey, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, you have killed deer, you have killed people. क्या चूतिया बना रहे हो?
I think this was, this was the time where it was like he was doing all the kinds of movies that would serve as a good PR cleanup, right? And this is, if you look
Yeah,
at Bagban,
that's a
Bagban is
unrepentant.
yeah. Wow, okay. There goes the monetization, if there ever was any. So,
Censor out whatever you want to censor out. I'm not
yeah,
going to
yeah.
censor how I feel about it.
Okay, fair enough. 2004, he has Garv, which is wow, a movie I've completely lost track of.
Pride of a
Mujhse Shaadi
nation.
Kar,
I remember the
yeah,
tagline. Yeah.
Pride and Honor, I think it's called.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Then Mujhse Shaadi Karoge, which was a pretty,
Which is
everything was fun. Yeah,
fun.
it's a fun movie.
It's
Yeah.
fun movie. Because of Akshay Kumar.
Which, yeah. Then Fir
Sorry.
Milenge, is Fir
Wrong
Milenge the
later.
one with, is Fir Milenge the one where he dies of AIDS?
Yes. No. Where he has AIDS, and so him and Shilpa Shetty have a one night stand, and he gives her AIDS, right? I so there's a track in the film where when um again, this is very hazy in my memory, but there's a scene where he later finds out when they're sleeping. Obviously, he doesn't know that when they sleep together, he doesn't know he has AIDS. When he later finds out, he has to tell everybody, right? All his partners that sorry guys, I blew this. I don't know why. When I saw it as a kid and I haven't seen it since. In my memory, I was, or probably because I'm conflating it with the fact that he's a truth in real life. In my head, the plot was this dude knew he had AIDS. And he's just going and sleeping with people and giving them AIDS. And so the way I had misremembered the scene where he comes back and later tells her, I'm sorry that, I had AIDS and I mean, I inadvertently passed it on to you. I misremember it as him coming back and saying, haha, I had AIDS and now I've given it to you, get fucked.
Isn't there an actual movie that follows this plot?
I'm sure there is.
Is
This used to be a
kids?
phenomenon with AIDS. People used to purposely, give it to others.
Kids, right? How many Koreans? Kids is the same thing. The guy has
And I guess,
he,
yeah.
he has a he's a kid who has AIDS and he goes around sleeping with people knowingly.
Yeah.
I think
No, that's
so.
what. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I can believe Salman would be that kind of person.
Fir Milenge. There was another Milenge that came around this time, but okay, we'll get to that
Yes.
later.
Yeah.
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 Then there is Dil Ne Jise Apna Kaha, which to me is Dil Ne Jise Apna Kaha is like a movie that I don't know how it exists. Anyone that says Bollywood films are not original has not seen Dil Ne Jise Apna Kaha. The entire story is in the title, right? So it is Preity Zinta, Bhumika Chawla, and Salman Khan. Preity Zinta and Salman are married, and then Preity Zinta dies in a car accident, or is like she's about to die, and like she has no hope, like she's gone, she's got brain injury or something, and they transplant her heart into Bhumika Chawla, and because it's Preity Zinta's heart, Bhumika Chawla falls in love with Salman Khan, right? So that is the premise of the story. Mind-bogglingly bad film, and tanked
Just
as
trying
it
to
should.
digest.
You can say this, you can say a lot of things, but you can't deny that this movie had heart.
True. Just
Okay, anyway, wrapping up. I think after this, he has Lucky No Time for Love, where he's like shoving in a Sneha Ulal, trying to like say, no, she doesn't look like Aishwarya Rai. She's not in this movie because she just, because she looks like Aishwarya Rai. But I mean, I saw this movie in theaters. Pretty fun album.
yeah. Lucky Lips is an
Yes.
earworm. Whenever I sing it. I end up singing it for the whole day.
And
Yeah,
then
I don't
I
know how
think,
the
yeah,
movie was.
it's not great.
Good
It's
album.
just like, but 2005
I
is kind of
avoid
where he
Salman
has.
movies if it isn't obvious by now. Yeah.
Yeah, 2005 is where he has the swing back, right? 2005, he has Maine Pyar Kyun Kiya, which is like Katrina's re-debut, and that becomes a hit. Then No Entry, which is one of the funniest films of this era. It's like an ensemble cast, and then he has Kyuki, which is a remake of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which again terrible film, but Like he swings it, like now he kind of swings it back, and in 2007 with Wanted and then Dabang, he kind of has that trajectory back up again. But the early 2000s, very very strange time for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving past him very quickly, let's get into the other actors. I think Saif kind of, he becomes this chocolate boy uh, hero for some time and then starts to experiment.
Saif also was in the wilderness in the late 90s, right?
Yeah,
Chocolate Boy to then What Am I? To then finding his footing in comedy and urban comedies, right? Dil Chahta Hai. Just remembering Saif in Dil Chahta Hai brings a smile to my face. Similarly, in Kal Ho Na Ho, he is now playing that slightly dumb, not necessarily dumb, slightly unaware, oblivious, but good-hearted sidekick of sorts to the story. Um, and I think that as a character trope is tailor-made for somebody with Seth's sensibilities, right? So I think
he's not
that is,
afraid to like,
to me, yeah, he's not afraid to poke fun at himself.
and even he even has Ek Hasina Thi around this time, which is a very different role compared to the kind of movies he's in.
Yes, great movie. I don't know if Seth is the best thing about it.
It's
Uh,
not.
yeah, I think the direction, the script, Urmila Matondkar, everything is. But yeah, it's a good. I mean, he took a chance. I think again, going 1 year out of the ambit of this uh, episode of the topic, Omkara is where he really got a shine. Got a chance to shine and showcase his dramatic chops. So remind everybody that he's also a great actor and not just comic relief. But I feel this is where and since he had this renaissance, so to speak, largely he's been in a good place, right?
Hmm.
That experimental bone in him is still there. He still does movies which are, where he takes risks. It's good to have him around. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think even 2005 with Salam Namaste, barring its absurd climax, it's a pretty
Yeah,
fun film.
it's a good film.
And yeah, it again, urban relationships. We'll get to it in the genre section, but he's been on a run. I think Akshay Kumar is probably the biggest sea change when it comes to like an
Yeah,
actor pivoting in this era, because up until like the mid 90s he classified himself as this leading man action hero, did a bunch of the Kiladis back to back to back. They said he did his own stunts,
yeah,
all of that stuff. And then 2000 happens and Hera Fairy happens, and it's two of the biggest so-called action stars at the time, right? It's Sunil Shetty and Akshay Kumar
yeah.
and Paresh Rawal, and it is marketed. And I remember the marketing to this day being pushing it as a thriller. Then now you walk into the theater and it's a straight up comedy, and it's probably one of the better comedies we've ever had. Like it is
Better,
so
bro. It's
memorable.
top three all time. Like, I'll fight anybody who disagrees. And Akshay
It's
Kumar is
so
great in the film. देखो कैसी गंदी गंदी बातें कर रहा है. Who talks like this? Oh my God.
that running phone gag is one of my favorite gags in a movie. Hello, Babu. Hello, Devi
नहीं
Prasad.
देवी
Mera
प्रसाद है. हाँ, वो तो 5 मिनट पहले ही चल रहे थे. तेरी माँ की रस. नॉट तेरी वो क्यों क्या पूछना था वो मछली के बारे में. मछली वो तो मैं मस्त तेल में फ्राई करके खा गया. But I
it
can
is.
quote this movie. I haven't seen Hera Fairy for I think 5+ years, but like it's burnt into my
We
brain.
we watched it in the pandemic and we were on the floor. Like we were just
Yeah.
dying on the floor. It's one of those really stupid silly films that I love. I wouldn't even call it stupid. I think it's actually a pretty fun film. Um, and then but this kind of kickstarts. He's like, okay, I can have a career as a comedic actor. I think Bhagam Bhag follows, and then he's essentially dabbling in a lot of Priyadarshan comedies around this time.
Here, in fact, I would say, just to interject, right? Hera Fairy, Akshay Kumar is great in it, but I mean, it's a Paresh Rawal show. There's no
Hmm.
two ways around it, right? And for me, the first movie where it was like, okay, so Akshay Kumar is a comic tour de force who can carry the film and keep it entertaining purely through his antics was Mujhse Shaadi Karogi. Like he
True, true,
was the
true.
best part of the film by a country mile, right? Every time, like he's a peak harami in that film, and like the movie knows it, right? That's why it's like the whole every time he's on screen, immediately it's like Sunny. Chura like Rani, and he's just a dick in the film, and it's beautiful. It's perfect. It's what gives the film its rewatchable value. 'Cause otherwise, it's a very average movie, right? But it's the Akshay Kumar parts that I'm like, hey, I can still to like in this year watch a movie that's now what, 22 years old and still have fun with it.
He's like, I'm just looking at the filmography. He's got Ajnabi, he's got Ha Maine Bhi Pyar Kiya Hai.
Ajnabi
So
is a
he's got
great
like
film.
this. Ajnabi is a real fun film.
Yeah,
Bipasha's debut. Then
yeah,
he's got like he's got Jani Dushman around this era, which again has gone on to become cult status. There's a movie I really like. He does a bunch of police movies in the middle, and I think Khaki for me is one of those really good films that has kind of been underappreciated. I know it became a TV show recently, but I think him, Aishwarya, Amitabh Bachchan, and it's not so much about him more than it is an Amitabh Bachchan vehicle, but it's a pretty
yeah,
kick-ass film.
yeah.
He's got like he's dabbling. Garam Masala happens, then there's Avara Pagal Devana, which we've spoken about fondly on the podcast before. I think the Matrix episode, given its direct scene-to-scene ripoff of the
Yeah.
of the gunfight,
Awara Pagal
and
Divana. Was he also in Divani Hue Pagal? He was.
he's in Diwani.
Yes, he
Yes,
was.
he's in Diwani Hue Pagal.
Which is
He's in
again that weird little niche in Bollywood, right? You had the Sajid Nadiadwala ripoffs of Bollywood films. And speaking of ripoffs, and speaking of Akshay Kumar, he was also in Jani Dushman, which is one of those
yes.
very weird films I wanted to talk about. We won't get into it because Jani Dushman requires and deserves an episode all its own. There's a lot that's happening. I mean, I could talk about just Sonu Nigam's performance in the film for 30 minutes. But there's Jani Dushman. So yeah, Akshay Kumar has a mixed bag, but broadly he's sort of figured what he's going to do for the next decade, at least decade and a half. When after which he made his next pivot as an establishment bootlicker, but that's again something we'll discuss another day.
Okay, well, that is I don't watch Akshay Kumar movies on principle, and I broke it to watch Booth Bangla, which everyone said is good, and then it was 3 hours of my life that I will never get back, and it further cemented my stance that I will not watch an Akshay Kumar movie in theaters again, because oh dear God, was it a chore to get through. Anyway,
Yeah.
then Hrithik again. We've spoken about this on the Bollywood debuts episode where he has like this big explosive debut, and then it just tanks. Like he's one flop after the other, one flop after the other. The other is just not landing for him. And finally, Rakesh Roshan says, "Cool, let's do Koi Mil Gaya." And wow, Koi Mil Gaya is a film that brings great success. One of the biggest hits of 2003. Great music, a great album as well. But oh my God, has it aged poorly? Like I feel like it has become the
Yes,
butt of many jokes. Like you go online, and if I were to make a reel about Jadoo doing some stupid shit, I'd get like a million views.
that's
So much
true.
so, I think more recently he was interviewing Ryan Gosling for Project Hail Mary, and he spoke about Jadoo and his interaction with alien characters, and it brought back it. I feel like half the nation was just traumatized listening to him talking about it.
Yeah.
It's more
It
than the
is,
alien.
yeah, that's not age. Well.
It does not age well, and it's not a great look for autistic people, because I don't know what he was doing in
It's
that
not.
movie.
I mean, and there's that reel I saw, like Rakesh Roshan's character has built this complex machine to put out vibration, and you morons are sitting there doing om. But yeah, I mean, he was really. I think he needed somebody who could vet scripts better for him. At that point, he was like, "Hey, I've got Kaho Na Pyar Hai, so I am going to do anything and everything." In fact, I think he went too much the other way, right? Because he overexposed himself right off the bat. The complaint people have with Hrithik in the last 20 years is that he's not done enough, if anything, right? He's too far, I mean, too far and few in between his roles. So I don't know, maybe that made him go too much on the other side of things. But I feel all things considered, his career, while good, is still a what if, right? What could have been.
Yeah, a big one. But then moving on to the actresses, I think in the interest of time, let's kind of keep this going. I think Rani, undoubtedly, one of the biggest actors of this era. Like this is her era.
Yeah, most def,
Hmm.
most def. I mean, you can. obviously talk about Bunty or Bubbly. She is probably the biggest character in Veer Zara. Or at least she's the biggest narrative driver in Veer Zara.
Hmm.
She
Hmm.
has got, keeping the Salman films aside, uh, obviously she came to prominence first. I would say for me at least, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, but post that she
Gulam.
went strength to strength. Gulam, yes, of course, Gulam,
Hmm.
fair enough. Um, but I mean, it wasn't just the commercial side of things. This is where she really also began to showcase that she was a great actress in and of itself, right? In and of herself.
Hmm.
And I think that is something that even, despite the fact that she's not as active as she used to be anymore, that is something that you can't take away from her. And if one were to remember, like, you will not necessarily remember Preity Zinta as a great actress. She was a good screen
Hmm.
presence, cute, etc., whatever. You will remember some, but with Rani, the first, at least for me, the first thing, good actress.
Hmm.
So that's something you can't take away from.
Yeah, I think she, even if you look at the filmography, also very varied. Does a lot of the commercial films, does some smaller movies. I mean, picks the Yash Raj films. I think she even did even the films that she does with, let's say, the bigger actors. She has a movie with Shah Rukh called Chalte Chalte, which kind of gets lost in the middle of all this because it's essentially about this middle class couple who are just fighting, like trying to like survive a marriage, and
Yeah.
those are the kind of movies that just disappear. Like Satya, I think, was the biggest one of the biggest hits.
Oh shit. Yeah.
It's a
Of
re
course, I forgot something. Yeah.
Satya is what Alai Poete, no? Isn't that what it's a remake of?
Yes.
I'm sorry, my
Yes.
Tamil is not great.
I was
Um,
just going to say, don't ask me to pronounce it.
uh,
I don't want to anger
in
anybody.
sorry, all the Tamil is listening to this. I apologize. Then like she takes her fair chances with some of the new actors. I think they put her in a few movies with Abhishek. It doesn't work. Mujhse Dosti Karoge. It's a film that we've shat on historically on this pod. Not exactly the best. And then eventually, I think she has Yuva, which I mean I want to talk about in the music section. Then she has
Mm,
Humtum and Veer Zara, which you've already mentioned. Uh, I, I
yeah.
I think the crowning glory with the performance of this entire thing, and you may argue that the film is not very good, is probably Black. And people tend to completely forget that Black exists because it's one of those movies that just hasn't aged well. I think if you were to blame anybody from the film's legacy tanking, is probably Aamir, who walked out of the movie and said, "I didn't think it was a great film." And ever since then, it's just been on a slippery slope.
Actually, why do you feel it's not aged well? I think it's a decent depiction of. Okay, I get that, Amitabh's character is a little abusive. No, not little, he's
Hmm.
quite abusive, right?
No, I think probably
Uh,
Aisha Kapoor's performance as the autistic girl is kind of what is not aged. I think that's first half is don't think hasn't aged well. The second half is the entire tension between Rani Mukerji and like her just trying to find that figure in her life, and it's a
yeah,
really
I mean,
the second half of the
I
film is
think
quite
her
nice.
performance holds up to scrutiny to time.
Hmm.
Fair enough on the Aisha Kapoor point, but this whole narrative of hiring people who live that experience in real life, or when we say if you want to hire somebody who's disabled or especially abled or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
get somebody who's that in real. That narrative didn't exist so much
Back
at
then,
that
yeah.
point of time. Yeah, so I don't think it's a disingenuous or a bad choice they did. They got a good performer who put out a fairly. I mean, you can't hold Aisha Kapoor up to Rani Mukherjee
Hmm.
standard. She did a
Hmm.
decent enough job. Uh, and yeah, actually, but you're right. I didn't mention Black when I was listing a movie.
Hmm.
It just skipped my. Why did that happen? I'm just thinking, right? It's a great movie. I still feel so.
I think she has
To
Black,
its
and she
case,
has I think in that year 2005 she has Black and Bunty or Bubbly. So some of the two. So
which I mean, talk about
hmm.
range, crazy.
Yeah. Crazy, like kick-ass here. And Preeti not too
Yeah.
far behind. I think she becomes like the face of the urban heroine around this time. She has Salam Namaste. She has, I think, Chori Chori Chupke Chupke. She's the kind of the lead star. Kalwana Ho is
Hmm.
probably cements her as like this, global superstar. And she goes from hit to hit. I think this is a point where you look at the actresses and they are the ones filling seats for the box office alongside the main hero, right? The people are not only
Yeah.
going for a Shah Rukh or a Salman movie, they're going for a Rani Mukherjee or a Preity Zinta movie. Not so much like a Kareena Kapoor film, but she's getting there. Like that happens in the back section of of the decade.
Was she a great actress? She's not bad. I'm not saying she's bad by any measure of. She knows her lane. She has a range. She's good at it. She's very marketable, is one.
Hmm.
And she picked great scripts. I like she knew what would work, right? I think that's what really worked in her favor. And speaking of the ability of picking great scripts or the lacks thereof, brings us to our next person in the list, which is Kareena Kapoor, right?
Hmm.
Similar problem in many ways to Hrithik, where I think she was overexposed in this time. She was in anything and everything.
I think they tried to play catch up. So I think Refugee didn't work. And they're
Yeah,
like, okay, just chuck her in everything possible. Let's try and find her an audience. So you
yeah.
have hits in here like Main Prem Ki Deewani Hu, and you have K3G, where
I
she
mean,
becomes like
hmm,
K3G, she becomes like the cultural icon. She becomes Pooh. It's a character that has stayed. Like if you think of Bollywood and if you list like iconic characters, it is, if you like it or not, it's there. It is one of those. She's she becomes that person. So they throw her in
yeah.
everything, and like you said, becomes she becomes overexposed, and it kind of leads to like a rather strange couple of years for her.
Then you have Aishwarya, of course. Again, I feel obviously, like ethereal beauty, fairly good actress in the right role. Not necessarily, always putting out good performances. But she had that star appeal, and again, I feel a lot of wasted potential, not in terms of what could she have put out, but I always felt people never knew how to use her rightly.
Because she's so beautiful, and I think you can make an argument that in Devdas it's probably the best someone has ever looked on screen in just the way
Yes,
she
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Like you can say
It's
like Deepika, of
distracting.
course, distractingly beautiful. Like you could Shah Rukh Khan, whatever he's doing in the back half of the film is being masked by just you're like, what the hell is happening? And you look at Aishwarya and you go, holy shit. So one of
Yeah,
those,
and even like when his dad is like, "You can't marry her," I'm like, "Uncle, have you seen? What are you saying? Fuck your caste prejudice. Just take a look, or the class prejudice in that case."
and it's just you're just like, oh, wow, right? Like and I think she has this weird foray into production. She does a movie called Dil Ka Rishta, which is just it is
Dil-
like you
why do I know
know,
songs from all these things? Hmm.
with Arjun Rampal. I think Arjun Rampal, her,
Yes, Arjun
and
Rampal,
Priyanshu Chatterjee, if I'm not mistaken. He's
the
the
guy from Tumbin.
yes, I think this is the movie
Yeah.
where
Anyway.
Arjun Rampal kills her fiance, and then she moves into his house, and then she falls in love with like some weird, I don't know what. It's a very strange movie that I have like watched repeatedly over the last couple of years on YouTube. That kind of category, right? Like that kind also was around this era, by the way. But we have it holds the same kind of appeal in my heart. So Ash is kind of all over the place at this point.
Which brings us to another trend. The next couple of heroines we want to talk about. This was probably again probably requires an episode of its own, right? But uh, this was the rise of sleaze, or I wouldn't call it sleaze, but erotic thrillers, or a slightly bolder take on. And I would say bolder takes were becoming mainstream here because of Bipasha Basu and Malika Ashrawat, right? The two heroines we want to talk about across Raz, Murder, Jism, all of them, and a fair few of them are actually rip-offs of English films.
Even
But
Aetras also came around this time, right? It was
even Aetras,
the
which is
rip off
Indecent Proposal,
disclosure. Disclosure.
Disclosure.
Hmm.
Yeah, Disclosure, my bad. So it brought that sort of these sort of bold storylines to the screen, and I don't know if they made people more comfortable with it, but people definitely flocked to theaters to watch it. Yeah, and this was a genre almost on its own, right? And it had its heyday in that period, I feel.
We spoke. I think we've spoken about this on the erotic thrillers episode. We have a whole episode on this, which Rohit
Yeah.
lovingly refers to as Turkey movies because he's like, I don't know why these movies exist. So I spoke about how the genre, and you can check it out. It's on the YouTube as well as on the Spotify page as well as the Apple Podcast page. It talks about how it was like when the Hollywood like era of erotic thrillers was ending, the Bollywood era was picking up, because by the 2000s Hollywood had kind of moved away from it, but Bollywood had this resurgence, cheap, low budget, a lot of skin show, horror slash thriller films. And Raz, if you remember, Raz was such a big hit when it came out, and it was led by two actors who weren't mainstream by any stretch of the imagination. Like Dino Morea at this point had been running around
Still
Bollywood.
isn't.
Yeah, I mean, still, yeah, not like he was like doing these side roles. I think he has a movie called Pyar Mein Kabhi Kabhi, which came out a couple year around this
Yeah,
time, just before. Kick-ass album once again, uh, but not what you'd call a mainstream actor. Him and Bipasha Basu are getting people in the movie theaters, uh, and like this is what you call a fast turnaround, right? A year prior, What Lies Beneath is released in theaters, and a year later, this movie is in theaters. Vikram Bhatt and the Butts went and said, you know what, this entire script is there. 2 weeks, get this shit out, go into pre-production, get your actors sorted. We'll have this.
Yeah.
We'll have this in theaters.
Yeah.
Then you've got Vidya Balan, who shows up in 2004 with Parineeta, and
fresh breath of
again,
fresh air.
breath of fresh air. You've got Saif in there as well. Very different kind of role for him. Once again, phenomenal music album. Like, I think you've got some jazz inspired tunes, you've got traditional Bengali folk music. There's a lot happening in this film, and I remember it was not a great hit, but it was one of those films that established the actors in it, and it became like a cornerstone around around what other periodic or pieces would like. I'd say this movie, if this movie doesn't exist, Lutera doesn't exist, or films along the same ilk don't exist.
So, guys, this is where part one ends, but part two will essentially look over the genres, the music of the era, some of the directors, some of the bigger production houses, and overall the lasting legacy of this particular era on Bollywood in the long term, specifically in the present day. That part should be out next week, or if you're watching this at a later date, it's probably out and you can check it out on whichever platform that you're currently streaming us on. We'll see you there. Take care. Also, if you like the episode so far, please do give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps us grow. Anyway, see you in the next one.